Hello and welcome to a bonus episode this week of CAIRNcast, which will probably make it 8.5 or something of that ilk. And I'm here with a more attractive co-host today. Can see Harris in the background looking happy with that. Kyle McGee, who, if you don't already know, is a barista with us here at Cairngorm Coffee. And we're really honoured to have him on the podcast this week to discuss UKBC, because if you didn't know, he's very good. If you didn't know, he did very well in his first heats in Glasgow in February, was it?
Yeah, feels like ages ago, but yeah, it was only February.
But the finals are coming around quick.
Yeah.
So the finals are this Friday, which is exciting. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. There's been a 4-week gap in between the prelims and kind of now, so a lot of work's gone in, but doesn't feel like a lot kind of thing. It's a bit of an oxymoron between the two, but yeah, really excited just to kind of go down and represent Scotland, being the only barista that actually works in Scotland competing. So
that's mad, isn't it? I think probably when you've told friends or when I've mentioned it to people, they probably don't necessarily understand the gravity of that. Like being the only person who works in a cafe in Scotland, representing Scotland at the UK Barista Championships is pretty high accolade, I would say.
Yeah, certainly. I think London has always been known as the place that if you want to compete, you go and work in London because that's kind of where the hub is. And I think something like 10 out of the final 14 are from London.
Right.
So to be able to represent Scotland and be the only one from Scotland, I kind of hold that as like go represent Scotland.
For sure. Until for those who don't understand how it all works, the heats happen across the UK. So there'll be one in London, there'll be one in Manchester,
Wales. Then there was one in Brighton or something like southeast, and
yeah. So there's lots.
There's 5
south of the border.
5, yeah.
But then there's one in Scotland, and actually the way it works is it doesn't really matter your proximity to those heats. If you want to compete in the one in Scotland, you can.
Yeah.
So a lot of the competitors that Kyle was up against were ones who are currently working in the London coffee scene or
even California.
Was there?
Yeah, there was a girl from California there.
That's incredible. But I guess what's quite fun and interesting about that is it gives you a bit more exposure to those communities and being able to kind of put yourself up against like baristas in London who, to be fair, for a long time we've probably seen as that kind of pinnacle of the UK coffee scene.
Yeah.
And for the first time have an opportunity to kind of benchmark yourself against those people.
Yeah.
Is that something that you were kind of nervous about?
Yeah, I think so, because having worked for the likes of Origin when I lived in London, you kind of see people like Ryoji Hope who won the London heat, and you're like, yeah, these guys seem so much better in terms of like their ability to perform on that stage because it's kind of like drilled into them. Like I think barista trainers have to compete at Origin, and like some of the Grumpy Mule barista trainers have to compete, so it's part of their job role.
There's like 4 of them, I think.
Yeah. So, well, the guy that won the Scottish heat was from Grumpy Mule. And
that's right.
Yeah. So, So, was I worried about going up against them? Not particularly. Like I'm quite a competitive person anyway, so I think that side of competition is something that's always interested me. But just in terms of being able to do it for the first time, it was certainly nerve-wracking on stage.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think like the thing which obviously we talked a lot about is timekeeping, and that's obviously something which is probably the most frustrating reason to lose points. I think you lose a point every second you go over.
Yeah, so the maximum number of points you can lose is 60 if you go 60 seconds over. But
what's the maximum you can earn? It's like 300 or
300 or something. Yeah.
So you can lose a fifth of your points if you go over.
Yeah, if you go over time. So one of my friends from London actually did go over a minute and had like the best espresso, I think, of the whole competition, scored the highest, and then lost 60 points. So yeah.
It's a cruel game.
Yeah, really cruel competition.
Yeah. But I guess, it is a barista competition. I think there has to be an element of it which is functional in a barista setting. And I guess something which is super important as a skill set of a barista is obviously cleanliness, which you get marked heavily on, and also the timekeeping. I mean, people want efficient service when
Yeah.
they visit, and something which I value very highly in our staff is can they have a good tempo when they're serving coffee,
Yeah.
because it is crucial.
Yeah, well, I think the two go really hand in hand. Like, I think a clean barista is a fast barista as well. It's kind of a bit weird to say that, but in terms of, I think if you're marked really heavily, especially in the prelims, you get 56 points for how clean you are. So I scored pretty highly in that, which I was quite proud of. But then just in terms of being able to get it done in 7 minutes, like we came, what was it, 6 minutes, 59 seconds, 53 milliseconds or something like that.
Unbelievable. Like, half a millisecond.
Yeah.
Just skirting with danger there.
Yeah,
How then do you think, like, so the skills that you've only been a barista for what, like two and a half years?
Yeah, 2
like
years.
in that time, like, how do you feel the natural skill sets that you've built have allowed you to go into this quite naturally? I mean, did you feel like you had to learn a lot of processes, or was it pretty instinctful?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the training that I've done, the technical side of it was one that always came like pretty easily to me. However, the way you describe coffee in terms of like tactile experiences, the in-depth knowledge of flavor notes, the flavor profiles, the flavor calls that you have to make, that's kind of where it gets almost a little out of control in terms of saying that you can taste 4 or 5 different things per drink. And I think that kind of brings us back to that message of engagement that is kind of what our whole presentation's based off of is, 99 people out of 100 aren't going to be able to taste, the likes of panela sugar in an espresso.
So funny.
So being able to simplify it
Pink
down.
peppercorn was a good one for you.
Yeah, pink peppercorns.
I have no idea what that tastes like.
Yeah, neither do I.
But the judge said he did, so I'm like... that is interesting, because I guess we talk quite a lot on the roastery about when we are picking tasting notes during QC for new coffees, there is an element of it which leans on marketing the coffee.
Yeah.
And obviously within reason, like, you can't just make up stuff that doesn't make any sense to the flavor profile expression of the coffee. But this is probably the first time where it was like, these notes have to actually taste. It's we're going to get called out pretty hard if we're not within the ballpark here.
Yeah.
And so I guess on that basis, it's quite reassuring to go and do fairly well.
Yeah.
To think, okay, actually, you do know how to make coffee.
Yeah.
We do know how to roast coffee. We do know kind of what we're trying to say makes sense. And, have you taken a bit of a confidence boost out of that?
Yeah, for sure. So our espresso course was really good on the day. The biggest thing for us to work on was our milk course, and we've certainly got that nailed down, I think, now. I guess we'll see on Friday. But I think going from a lot of testing and a lot of... It's incredible how many espressos of that same coffee that we've had to drink, and just being able to develop a flavor profile that actually matches what some of the best people in the industry actually agree with is certainly very rewarding.
Well, and because that's an interesting thing for the listeners or viewers to understand, is that the quality of the coffee that some of these people are competing with is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to the World Barista Championships, which is where you could end up after this weekend if all the stars align, then it's basically free reign. Everyone, you basically have to try and source the best possible coffee you can get your hands on. And that can mean using coffee that probably is, could be 50 times more expensive than the coffee we're using. I've no idea, but it's that 0.5% elite high-end coffee is, a lot of it is grown almost exclusively for barista competition.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you look at like Eugenioides, it's lab grown. It's one of the parents of coffee, and they had to recreate it in a lab for people to be able to use it in the US. So
I guess on the flip side to that, what we've done is, it's your first time competing, it's our first time helping anyone compete. So I guess we were quite keen to, not go too far down the rabbit hole, because, there was the risk of like, well, we've never roasted a coffee competition, so we don't want to have to go and waste a lot of coffee, which is in scarce supply. But equally, it was an opportunity for us to be like, well, can we add value to this coffee, which it is a good, really, really good coffee.
It's a fantastic coffee.
But it's one that we hoped that we could open up to customers, and I think that's our intention.
Yep.
That's something after this weekend that we intend to do.
Yeah.
We can maybe do a exclusive actually. We're going to be launching coffee in these kind of tin packaging, which you've seen, have you?
Yes.
So we're working on that this week, and that's super exciting for us. It's always been a passion to be in a position where we can work with kind of more special coffees, but we needed to do it at a time when it kind of made sense. And I guess a lot of our thinking the past few years has been like, how can we make a better business? And part of that is like, how can we open up coffee to as many people as possible?
Yeah.
And obviously this UK Barista Championships is quite the audience is not vast, but it's growing. And I think it'll be really interesting this weekend to see, what it's like down there and what the community is like.
Yeah.
I take it the community in the Scottish heat you found pretty strong?
Oh, for sure. I think the support I didn't really expect in terms of how many people would actually turn up. And it's quite a niche thing, but kind of the whole of Edinburgh, Glasgow really like rallied together. And there was a huge turnout. And I think no matter where you finish, whether it be last or first, like everyone's super supportive, and it's a big learning curve. I think that's the main takeaway from certainly your first time. That's what everyone says. It's like, this is the year you're going to learn the most, so just take it in.
And in terms of taking the heat off you, I think it's like we talked about before the Glasgow heat, it was all about, let's get experience this year, and then you can look to future years. You obviously did incredibly well, so I think it almost has put more pressure on you. But I still think it is an opportunity to, as we said, get a benchmark against other people. It's an opportunity to build your own personal brand and be able to speak to, people within the coffee community, which is great. And for us, it's a great opportunity again for us to test our roasting and our I guess understanding of coffee to a bigger audience and a higher degree. So I think we'll leave it at that. You've probably got some cups to go and wash ahead of the finals.
I've got a long drive ahead.
So best of luck, and thanks for jumping on. And
thank you very much for having me
into UKBC. If you enjoy this content, then please do follow along for future episodes. Why not send a wee comment of support for Kyle below, and subscribe if you want to. Maybe we'll do a post BC kind of roundup of how we got on and further learnings. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Good luck.
Good.